The ocean remembers everything, every ship that has sailed upon its surface, every soul that has been claimed by its depths. But what we choose to remember, what stories we tell ourselves about these losses, reveals as much about us as it does about history itself. In this video, we'll explore 5 military ships whose final moments remain mysteries for decades. These weren't random tragedies. They were moments when technological confidence met operational reality, when engineering marvels were destroyed in minutes. Warships that now lie scattered on the ocean floor, their stories lost with the men who sailed them. For years, families wondered, naval experts theorized, but only when deep-sea exploration finally reached these wrecks could the truth come to light. Welcome to Shipwreck History. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and help us get to 10,000 subscribers. The HMS Hood entered service in 1920 as the largest warship in the world. At 860 feet long and weighing almost 45,000 tons, she represented everything the Royal Navy stood for after World War I. Her 15-inch guns could hit targets 17 miles away, and her 31-knot top speed made her faster than any battleship afloat. For 20 years, the HMS Hood sailed the world from Australia to the Caribbean, cementing Britain's naval dominance in the public mind. By May 1941, the Hood was no longer the most modern ship in the fleet, but she remained its most famous. When German codebreakers revealed that the battleship Bismarck and heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen were heading for the Atlantic shipping lanes, the HMS Hood and the new battleship HMS Prince of Wales were sent to intercept them in the Denmark Strait. The engagement opened at 5:50 a.m. on May 24, 1941. Both British ships targeted Bismarck, while the German ships concentrated their fire on the Hood. At a range of 13 miles, the massive naval rifles hurled shells weighing over a ton at the opposing ships. For 8 minutes, the outcome remained uncertain. At 6 a.m., Bismarck's fifth salvo changed everything. A 15-inch shell penetrated the Hood's deck armor and detonated her aft ammunition magazines. The explosion broke the ship in half and killed 1,400 men in seconds. The Hood disappeared beneath the waves so quickly that nearby ships initially thought she had simply vanished in a smoke cloud. Only 3 survivors were pulled from the water. For 60 years, the Hood's final resting place remained a mystery, lying somewhere beneath the Denmark Strait's frigid waters. When marine archaeologists finally located the wreck in 2001, the discovery revealed the true violence of that morning in 1941. The Hood lies scattered across the ocean floor in 3 main sections, separated by a huge debris field. Her bow section rests on her port side, a ghostly monument to British naval engineering. Between the bow, stern, and conning tower, the debris field contains twisted metal, gun barrels, and fragments of what was once the world's mightiest warship. The central section, where the magazines exploded, simply no longer exists as recognizable ship structure. The stern section rises from the ocean floor at a steep angle, its rudder still locked in the port turn the Hood was making when she sank. Even in death, the Hood tells the story of that catastrophic explosion, her scattered remains proving that no amount of pride or tradition could protect her crew from the brutal impact of high-explosive shells and ammunition magazines. In the early days of aircraft carrier warfare, no ship embodied the promise and uncertainty of naval aviation like USS Lexington. Commissioned in 1928, she was born from the Washington Naval Treaty's limitations on battleship construction. Transformed from a planned battlecruiser into one of America's first true aircraft carriers, her massive size and distinctive 8-inch gun turrets made her unique among carriers, a floating experiment in how wars might be fought from the sea. The crew called her Lady Lex with genuine affection. She was home to nearly 3,000 officers and enlisted men who pioneered carrier operations. Throughout the 1930s, when Pearl Harbor thrust America into war, Lexington was already at sea, ferrying Marine fighters to Midway Island. By May 1942, Lexington found herself in the Coral Sea, part of Task Force 17, racing to intercept Japanese forces advancing toward Australia. The Battle of the Coral Sea would be the first, where opposing fleets never came within sight of each other, fighting instead through their aircraft across hundreds of miles of ocean. On May 8th, Japanese dive bombers and torpedo planes found their mark. 2 torpedoes struck Lexington's port side, while bombs set fires throughout her forward sections. Initially, the damage seemed manageable, then the gasoline vapors ignited. Shortly before 3 p.m., a massive explosion ripped through the ship's interior. More explosions followed as torpedo warheads cooked off in the intense heat. By 5:07 p.m., Captain Frederick Sherman ordered abandon ship. The destroyer USS Phelps delivered the final blow, firing 5 torpedoes to prevent Lady Lex from falling into Japanese hands. 216 of the Lexington's crewmen went down with the ship, while 2,700 survived to fight another day. For 76 years, Lady Lex remained hidden beneath the Coral Sea, until Paul Allen's research team made an extraordinary discovery in March 2018. Resting 10,000 feet below the surface, Lexington defied every expectation about deep ocean preservation. The main section of the wreck sits upright, her superstructure standing proud against the Pacific darkness. Most incredibly, aircraft remain exactly where they were abandoned during the evacuation. Devastator torpedo bombers sit in the hangar bay, their wings folded. Fuel gauges still readable after decades in the abyss. Throughout the ship's compartments and superstructure, even delicate details, like radar equipment and gun mounts, survive in pristine condition. The cold, oxygen-poor water has turned Lady Lex into a time capsule, preserving not just a ship but a moment in naval aviation history, when carriers were still experimental weapons, and their crews were writing the rules of a new kind of warfare. USS Grunion was built for war. Commissioned in April 1942 as one of America's new Gato-class submarines, she represented the cutting edge of undersea warfare technology. At 312 feet long with 10 torpedo tubes and a crew of 70, Grunion could dive to 300 feet and patrol for weeks without surfacing. Her electric motors ran silent beneath the waves while her diesel engines could push her at 20 knots on the surface. By June 1942, Japanese forces had achieved what no foreign power had managed since 1812. They occupied American soil. The islands of Attu and Kiska in Alaska's Aleutian chain now flew the rising sun flag. The Grunion received orders to patrol these hostile waters, hunting Japanese supply ships and gathering intelligence on enemy positions around Kiska. The submarine's war began successfully. On July 15th, she intercepted 2 Japanese submarine chasers, sinking both vessels in quick succession. Her crew had proven themselves capable, and the Grunion's radio reports to Dutch Harbor reflected confidence and professionalism. For nearly a month, she operated in the dangerous waters north of Kiska, dodging enemy patrols while completing her mission. July 30, 1942, brought Grunion's final message. She reported heavy anti-submarine activity around Kiska, and confirmed 10 torpedoes remaining in her tubes. Then the radio went silent. Search aircraft found no trace of the submarine. By October 5th, USS Grunion was declared overdue and presumed lost with all 70 hands. The mystery persisted for over 6 decades until an unexpected breakthrough emerged from Japan. In 2002, a naval historian contacted American researchers with a wartime account from the freighter, Kano Maru. The Japanese ship's commander described an encounter with an American submarine near Kiska around the time the Grunion disappeared. His report included precise coordinates and details that had never appeared in official records. The discovery came in August 2007, when underwater cameras finally located Grunion's broken hull, 3,300 feet beneath the Bering Sea. The wreck told a story of mechanical failure and tragic irony. Evidence suggests that 3 of Grunion's own torpedoes malfunctioned during an attack on Connemara, bouncing off the target without exploding. A 4th torpedo circled back and struck the submarine, damaging her diving planes and sending her into an uncontrolled descent past her crushed depth. The Grunion had become a victim of the very weapons meant to protect her, lost to the same torpedo problems that plagued the entire American submarine force in 1942. The discovery finally answered questions that had haunted families for generations, while revealing how quickly the hunter could become the hunted in the unforgiving waters of the North Pacific. In February 1945, as the Third Reich collapsed around them, German submarine U-864 carried one of the war's most desperate missions. Operation Caesar called for the long-range sub to transport advanced technology to Japan, including mercury for explosive production, jet engine components, and rocket guidance systems. If successful, these technologies might extend Japanese resistance long enough for Germany to reach a diplomatic solution. The U-864 was built for exactly this kind of extended mission. Her long-range design could carry cargo across entire oceans, and her experienced crew understood the risks of operating in enemy-controlled waters. All 73 crew members understood the stakes. Their cargo could change the war's course in the Pacific. The mission began badly. Mechanical problems delayed U-864's departure from Germany, forcing repairs in Bergen, Norway. When U-864 finally sailed on February 6, 1945, her engines were already suspect. Unknown to Captain Wolfram, British codebreakers had intercepted German communications about Operation Caesar. The HMS Venture was dispatched to intercept the cargo submarine. On February 9, U-864's diesel engines began misfiring, producing the loud, irregular noise that submarine crews feared above all else. The HMS Venture's hydrophone operator detected the telltale sound. For 3 hours, the two submarines played a deadly game of hide-and-seek beneath the North Sea. Lieutenant of the HMS Venture faced an unprecedented challenge. Working with his crew, he computed a firing solution in 4 dimensions: time, distance, bearing, and depth. At 12:12 p.m., he fired 4 torpedoes at 17-second intervals. U-864 heard the torpedoes coming and tried to evade, but the 4th weapon found its mark. The explosion broke U-864 in half, sending her to the seafloor with all hands. Operation Caesar died with her crew that day. The engagement remains unique in naval history. It's the only documented case of one submarine sinking another while both were submerged. But U-864's story didn't end with her sinking. When Norwegian fishermen discovered the wreck in 2003, lying in 2 sections 150 meters below the North Sea, they uncovered an environmental disaster in progress. The 65 tons of mercury U-864 carried to Japan remains locked within her hull, slowly leaking into the surrounding water. Steel containers holding the toxic metal are failing after decades on the ocean floor, contaminating marine life and forcing the Norwegian government to ban fishing in the area. The mercury poses such a severe threat that authorities plan to entomb the entire wreck under sand, gravel, and concrete, turning U-864 into an underwater sarcophagus. Even in death, the submarine continues to threaten the living, her deadly cargo a lasting reminder of how desperately Germany fought to change the war's outcome. Very few places seemed safer in October 1939 than the Royal Navy's primary base in the Orkney Islands. The vast natural harbor, known as Scapa Flow, had sheltered Britain's entire fleet during World War I. Minefields, steel barriers, and sunken ships blocking the entrances made a submarine attack theoretically impossible. HMS Royal Oak, a veteran battleship that had fought at Jutland in 1916, lay at anchor there on the night of October 13, 1939. Her crew secure in the knowledge that they rested in Britain's most protected anchorage. Royal Oak was no longer the Royal Navy's most modern battleship. At 23 years old, she was too slow to keep up with the fleet, relegated to harbor defense duties, where her anti-aircraft guns could protect Scapa Flow from air attack. Her crew of 1,200 men took pride in their vessel's distinguished service record and the safety of their home base. That safety was unfortunately an illusion. A skilled German submarine commander and captain of the U-47 had studied reconnaissance photographs of Scapa Flow's defenses, identifying weaknesses in the eastern approach through Kirk Sound. Under cover of darkness, U-47 slipped between the block ships, navigating treacherous currents to reach the anchorage's heart. At 12:58 a.m. on October 14th, U-47 fired its first torpedoes at Royal Oak, The explosion was so minor that many aboard thought it was an internal accident. Captain Preen used their confusion to reload and attack again. The second salvo, at 1:16 a.m., found its mark with devastating effect. 3 torpedoes struck Royal Oak amidships, detonating her magazines. The ship rolled to starboard and sank in just 13 minutes. Over 800 men were lost that night. Today, the HMS Royal Oak serves as both a war grave and an underwater monument in the shallow waters of Scapa Flow. The ship lies at a steep angle, nearly inverted, with her port side partially accessible and her massive gun turrets scattered across the seabed, as a reminder of that October night. In clear conditions, the whole of the Royal Oak can be seen from the surface. Unlike deep ocean wrecks, the Royal Oak remains accessible to divers, though strict regulations protect her as an official war grave. Each year, divers conduct memorial services at the wreck, hanging the official flag of the British Royal Navy at the wreck site. The shallow depth means Royal Oak continues to deteriorate, her steel slowly returning to the sea. But her story lives on in the annual ceremonies, and the oil that still occasionally seeps from her bunkers, a ghostly reminder of her tragic end, in what was supposed to be the safest harbor in Britain. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share, and let us know in the comments what shipwrecks you want us to cover next. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, and until next time, keep exploring.